Hey there, it is Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Ezra Ortiz.
Ezra in for Dan today, and what a pleasure to talk to this Arthur, did I say Arthur? Author, speaker, pastor, Champ Thornton. Champ, how are you?
Rick, I'm great. It is so good to be with you and Ezra today. Thanks for having me on the show.
I promise I haven't been drinking. It's just trying to adjust now because we do some shows from the home studio, and some here in Buckhead. But it's good to talk to you. You've got another children's book out. It's called "Why Do We Say Thank You?" Learning to be grateful. Want to talk about that? This is one in a series, I think, if I read that correctly. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, you and your wife, Robin, and your kids, Thanksgiving, what do you guys do? Are you going away? Are you staying at home? What's the deal?
That's a great question. It varies from year to year. This year, we're actually kind of getting outside our comfort zone. Some friends said, "Hey, let's get together and do some camping." And so we're heading down to Northern Virginia and doing some camping. And, depending on how it goes, this may be the last time we decide to go camping over Thanksgiving.
All right, now, Champ, is this camping camping to me is like a cabin or an RV with heat and running water and an indoor bathroom. What describe this kind of camping that you're going to be doing?
Well, I'll know better once we're done with it, but at the moment, we think it's more like what you described. So a cabin with some indoor plumbing and things like that. So I'm good for that. If this is a tent or a hammock, I think no.
I would assume it would be rather chilly if it's the tent part. But hopefully, it'll be indoors and you guys will have a great time. All right, we want to talk about why do we say thank you, learning to be grateful. And my first question is, you've written a lot of children's material. Is it more difficult to write for children? And I know parents do read the books as well. Is it more difficult to write for children than an adult, or no?
Well, it kind of depends. So, in some ways, you want to write in a way that's simple and understandable. And sometimes, if you feel like you know what you're trying to say, then that can come pretty easily. But if you're still kind of grappling with it yourself, then sometimes it comes off a little more complicated. And so it really just depends on how familiar you are with the topic. And I think also having kids, it helps because, you're asked questions all the time and you kind of know like where your child is and what they can understand and what they can process at this stage. So I do think it depends on various factors.
All right.
Yeah.
This book in the series talks about saying thankful. Why do we say thank you? And learning to be grateful. Tell us about the book and where it came from.
Yeah, so my mom used to read to me all the time, like hundreds of books. Before I could read, I would just carry these big stack of lots of Dr. Seuss books into her, and she would read them to me. And I just always had an appreciation for that. And so this book is dedicated to her, and it's written in the kind of rhyme that you would expect in a Dr. Seuss book. And so it's a little bit fun, a little bit tongue in cheek. And it's basically the story of a little boy who's grumpy all the time, and he is not thankful, and everything is boring, and but his life is very good. He has no reason to be bored or reason to be ungrateful. And his parents are talking to him about the fact that God made everything good, and if he would just look around, he would see all the amazing things God has made, but he has none of that. And then that night in a dream, and of course, this is a little fantastical. So, again, a nod to Dr. Seuss. He realizes, oh, all these things come from God. So he's connecting the things in creation with the creator. And that it makes all the difference. So basically, the truth that his parents have been telling him, the penny drops, and he realizes, oh, there's no cause to be bored because God has made everything so brilliant, so good, and to be enjoyed. And so there is that link between ungratefulness and boredom, between seeing the things that God has made and enjoying them and being thankful for them.
Yeah, that's great. And I think on that note, um, sometimes whenever, parents of small children, they'll say, "What do you say?" You say thank you. They just kind of have
Mm.
them regurgitate just, hey, just say thank you, just say thank you, just say thank you. But the deeper part, which I think you're touching on, is actually teaching them to be grateful, which is a completely different thing, And so talk about maybe how you address that in the book. Like, what is the difference between just simply saying thank you and then maybe not feeling actually grateful, versus actually cultivating that spirit of gratitude.
Yeah, so there might be a little bit of like fake it till you make it. Of course, like I
Sure.
am going to be grateful here for this thing, for camping, right? But the
Yeah.
reality is that thankfulness begins in some ways more with the eyes of our heart than with the words of our mouth. And so when we're able to see, and throughout the book, you'll notice eyes and sight and seeing is emphasized again and again. That's on purpose. That when we see the source of the things that we enjoy, the source of the things around us, when we actually stop and, I mean, when's the last time we actually noticed the fork beside the plate on which our food is heaped, right?
Mhm.
And give thanks. We don't even see it.
Hmm.
It's like water through a pipe. We don't even notice the blessings that are all around us.
Hmm.
And when we actually see the things that God has made with the eyes of our heart, then we are queued up to be blown away because
Hmm.
the world he's made, it's sure it is broken. And yes, there are things that cause us to lament and to be sad, but there's so much that we have to be thankful for.
Champ Thornton with us. We're talking about one of his children's book. It's the latest one, and it's called "Why Do We Say Thank You?" Learning to be grateful. Give us some tips. Now, my boys are all men, so I don't have children any longer, but it was very important to us to teach them to be grateful and to say thankful. And the beauty of that is, I mean, I'm sure there are times that they're not thankful and not grateful, but they really do have grateful hearts in so many ways. The tips that you can share with parents that are watching and listening, how you did that for your kids or how you're doing that for your kids.
Yeah, that's a great question. How we did it with our kids, I would say imperfectly, right? But the reality is like it's really simple that when our oldest, who's getting ready for college at this stage, was very young, we're talking 2 years old or so. He's out in the backyard and he's playing on a little playground, and you're there making sure he doesn't fall off and hurt himself. That you just have conversations like, look at that was amazing how you pulled yourself up. Who made your arms strong like that? It's like, God did. Who gave you those muscles? God did. All right. And then, just kind of repeat. Maybe he's running fast and
Hmm.
you're like, wow, that was really fast, buddy. Who made your legs that strong? God did. Okay. So what do we do about that? We can say thank you. Thank you for making me that way. And then, of course, children, I think they naturally understand some of this. When children are little, sometimes you ask them to pray for dinner and we're expecting thank you for the food, but they kind of go around the world, and it's
Mm-hmm.
thank you for the green beans, and
Yeah.
thank you for the ketchup, and thank you for the
Right.
the roast, and it just kind of
Right.
goes on and on and on. But they get the right idea because they're identifying the things that are in front of them, and they're connecting them with the one who made them and made them good.
Yeah, that is so key. So we've talked about this on previous episodes of the show, but I'm expecting twins into the world coming in a couple months now. So this is all very timely, and I'm just thinking about everything that you're saying, and I'm just it just on a personal note, really excites me because I'm like, wow, this is it's so key because um gratitude, right? The root of gratitude, it just naturally brings us then to worship, right? To
Mhm.
worship God and to just be so
Mhm.
grateful, to be just so thankful, to think about when you start listing off these things, man, God, I'm so grateful. God, thank you for making my legs to run. Thank you for making my arms. All of what you just said was just so powerful. I want to talk about also you kind of hinted at the rhyming, the Dr. Seuss, the I want to talk about the illustrations in the book. They're very imaginative. They kind of leap off the page, if you will. The illustrations were done, little tip of the hat to Brad Woodard. Talk a
For
little
sure.
bit about how the illustrations illustrate the point you're trying to make.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Tip of the hat to Brad. He's just done an amazing job at his studio, Brave the Woods. And I love what he's done. The Grumpy Boy is just so grumpy. It's really fun. And what we notice in the book, it's playful, it's colorful, kids are going to enjoy it. And when the little boy has the dream sequence where, he's starting to kind of connect the dots, which is just a fun way of talking about how we process and think about life. You'll notice that all the boy's day that he's experienced and that he was so grumpy about, he kind of has like a rewind. He gets to see it again. But this time, you'll notice in the illustrations that there's beams of light that come down from the top of the page and connect to all the things in the day: friends, fun, animals at the zoo, food that he's enjoyed. And he realizes that God is the source of the bacon, the pancakes, all the animals, friends, and even himself. And so visually, there's a tie-in. And then when the boy wakes up, you kind of see some of those lights that you saw throughout the dream sequence. You see those not really in the world around him, but you see them in his own eyes. And that's the way we should look. We should be able to look around and connect everything. There was a pastor who lived in England in the late 1500s, early 1600s. His name is George Herbert. And he says in one of his poems that you can look at everything in the world like you look at a window. You can either stand at your back window at your house, your sliding door, and you can either look at it or you can look through it and you can see the scenery beyond. And he's like, that's how everything is in this world. We can either look at the strong arm muscles. We can either look at the food on the table. We can look at the animals at the zoo and we can see them. And that's the way unbelievers look at it. Romans 1 says that they don't acknowledge God and they're not thankful. So they're not making that connection. It's purely horizontal. Or as Christians, we can look through that window as God intended, and we can see the one who made it and who made it very good. And so I think Brad's illustrations do really a wonderful job of making that point.
So good. Champ Thornton, check out the book and would make perfect Christmas gifts. And Christmas is just around the corner. So why do we say thank you? Learning to be grateful. More books in the series, no doubt, on the way. Look at the old stuff as well. Do we have a website that they can go to find out more? Champ?
Yeah, you can go to my own website. It's Champ Thornton, THORNTON.com. You can go to newgrowthpress.com as well. Or these books are all available on Amazon as well.
Awesome. Champ, we appreciate you. Have a great time camping. We'll have to check in with you after the first of the year and see how that went and kind of look ahead to 2023, see what's going on with you and the books that you plan to write. Champ Thornton, check out the books. Good stuff there. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Ezra Ortiz.
This is Faith Talk Live.